Gettysburg Museum of History Studios.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Take the position and hold it at any cost. As the Confederates tried to pry the Union line off Oak Ridge on the afternoon of July 1st, 1863, it fell to one division to attempt to hold the line and stem the rising tide. Join us as we discuss the defense of Oak Ridge and some of the heroic actions from that fateful afternoon. Robinson's division, ladies and gentlemen, and the defense of Oak Ridge is what we'll be covering on September 16th.
Robinson's division, yep. Yeah. Again, we said this earlier, this tour goes back to the tour we did last year. Like I mentioned with Daniel's Brigade, these are sort of connected. So if you've been on all of them, they sort of connect, but they're good standalone tours nonetheless. Rhodes Division attacks with 2 brigades at about 1:30. They get pushed back. And then, of course, everybody regroups, and then we have this about 3:30 attack all along the line. Mm-hmm. And now they're coming up with up against Robinson's 2 brigades. And they're the brigades that are going to be holding on to the last as the momentum from the Confederates starts to push everything back towards Cemetery Hill. And then, of course, there's one regiment that's going to be left there and told, you hold to the last against this onslaught that's coming. So that's what this tour is about. Robinson's division's a little over 2,000. It's only 2 brigades, so it's not terribly big. But again, the service they render on the first day tears into these Confederate brigades that reduces their effectiveness for either day 2 or day 3. Mm-hmm. So it has an impact, even though day 1 looks like a Confederate victory to a point. We all know they don't attack the hill. But aside from that, the losses they suffer on the first day, they're not being able to be replaced. And that's going to play into, in my mind, the second and third day. So this is part of that also.
All right. And are you going to get into the 16th Maine at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Very
Sure.
good. Very
you
good.
Can't do this without that.
No, people.
The hold to the last.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But I just thought it was a good, I didn't purposely mean to connect all these at first, but then I realized, well, I just did Daniel's Brigade earlier in the year. We did O'Neill and Iverson. Who are they going up against? We talk about them during those tours, but not as in depth as when we're given those tours because the focus is on that other brigade. This time it'll be reversed. Our focus is on the Union brigades trying to hold on to Seminary Ridge till the last as this Confederate attack comes towards them in the afternoon of July 1st.
Right. And you need to, if you're going to focus on, say, the Confederates or the Union, you need to eventually, at some point, tell the other side of the story because who are they fighting? Who are they attacking?
Exactly.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So,
it's a two-sided coin. You got to have both sides.
In an earlier promo for these this year, I said, what good is Batman without the Joker? But I didn't say who was Batman and who was the Joker. Your Batman may be different than my Batman, but my Batman is the real Batman.
Are you going to wear tights?
What?
Tights?
Of course. What good is Batman without his tights?
Who's your favorite Batman?
No.
Because Adam West is the only Batman.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. Well, Michael Keaton was pretty good.
I never saw any of the movies.
Really?
Other than the 1966 Adam West movie.
Oh, that was
he has
great.
That beautiful bomb he's running around trying to dispose of. We don't have bombs like that still.
And I love when they're in the Batcopter and the yacht disappears and he dips into the water and a shark comes up on his leg. But you can see the shark is just like woven into the rope ladder that he's on. It's
out
so
of his
bad.
Comes shark repellent,
of course, he's got everything on that utility belt. Oh man, I wonder if people understood, because I know as a kid I didn't understand the humor of Batman until I got older and I saw some of the things. I was like, oh wait, this is like a spoof.
Yeah,
like this is. But were the original comic books comedic? Or is the show spoofing the comic book?
It's spoofing.
Okay, yeah. So that's even better. Yeah. That was brilliant.
Even the show, the movie really spoofs it because then they're climbing up the building and like Jerry Lewis pops out of a window or something. Right. They got stars popping out.
Yeah, Sammy Davis pops out.
But I used to love it.
That's the one thing about that effect that they use for when they're rope climbing up the side of a building is that the capes don't hang the way they should.
They're just straight down.
They're straight down around their asses.
Not blowing them. There's no wind on that building.
The should have just had some fishing line attached to the end of the capes and have somebody hold it so they're like straight out. Anyway, the point is, Robinson's division.
And there it is. And we're back. And
Robinson's division in the defense of Oak Ridge is on September 16th at 10 a.m. As I always say in these park where legal. Where are we going to meet? We're going to meet at Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge.
So that's that observation tower there by the Peace Light.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of parking there. You can park up on Oak Hill and walk, but if you do that, be careful crossing the Mummersburg Road.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a whole lot of walking with the tour. So if you don't park right there and you've got to park a distance away and walk to the tour,
You get you walking.
yeah, it's going to be fine. You're not doing a whole lot of walking on this tour.
So this might be a good tour for those of you who would like to come, but for whatever reason, you can't do a lot of walking. Maybe you've got a bum knee or something like that. I'm not saying this would be totally easy on you, but it's not miles and miles of walking.
It's not the Florida Brigade.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is going to be a little bit more of an easy,
Yeah.
a little easier of a walking tour.
Yeah. It's something,
And we like to throw this in once in a while because
it depends on who you're talking about. Sometimes that's how it works out.
Works out that way.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, this should be good. Robinson, the hairiest man in the Army, I believe. That was his. That was what he was
Got a
known
nice
for.
statue up there.
He does have a great statue. Very long beard on the statue.
Yeah. Hey, can I take a moment to say this? I am kind of dumb. However, are you not impressed with these little write-ups I do?
I am.
I mean,
after I do
did these?
Yeah.
I am moved
I pull these words out of my butt.
each and every time.
after I correct the spelling and put all the commas where they belong, and change the grammar a bit, they're great.
That is the prettiest crayon I have ever seen. That
No, I'm not a Marine. I'm an Army guy. I'm not in the Marines now. But I'm pretty impressed with them. They sound very poetic to me.
They do. And
They
Matt,
do.
you read
Yes.
them well.
Thank you.
And I love your theme for the first day. Like your first day, everybody thinks it's this Union defeat, but the first day, you were really just draining Robert E. Lee of resources, of men, of
Then he
munitions.
couldn't afford to lose.
And most importantly, I think on the first day is time that Lee
Yes.
doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And the holding of the first day really forces his hand on day 2 and day 3 because he's running out of time, men, bullets, and machines. So I love this theme that you've got going on.
A lot of people gravitate to attacking the hill, and that's fine. I don't think they get the hill anyways. There's enough cannon and men, and the Confederates have been moving and using up so much energy all day long, and it's going to get dark. By that point, you're attacking uphill in the dark against these 40 or so cannon that are already up there. I'm pretty sure he doesn't take the hill, but all the emphasis is on the hill, and so they don't take it. That's why they lose, ultimately. But if you look back at the amount of men that they lose, we did this last year with Perrin. Next to Perrin is Scales Brigade. They get slaughtered out there, out there in between Seminary and McPherson's Ridge.
Yeah.
They just get slaughtered, and it's that type of slaughter and degradation of Lee's forces on that first day, the ones that arrive on the field, that you see what happens on the third day, the brigades he uses. Now, he can pick other brigades, but he picked who he picked, and that's what we deal with. How much of their manpower have they lost already? And now you're expecting them to go across this open ground, try to attack this ridge.
Right.
It made it that much more impossible to do.
Yeah.
And it's all, from the first day.
The other thing about the first day that it just dawned on me only a couple of years ago was that, from the Union perspective, if you, like you said before on an earlier one of these promos, is if you look at the first day as a standalone battle, it's a Union loss, right? But as the battle as a whole and where they end up spending day 2 and 3 on those hills and ridges south of town, I don't know if I've ever heard or read any evidence that someone actually said this, but it seems to me like really what it is just a delaying action for more of the Union Army to get up to the good ground. Not that, so in other words, they never intended we have to hold the ground north and west of town. This is the ground we have to hold. That wasn't what was going on, because it's really not, unless you can get the whole army to come in on all the flanks and everything, like it's just not a really easily holdable position.
No.
Obviously.
Although they're trying their best to hold on, because if you're not holding on, you're losing men.
Yeah.
And, Reynolds, to digress here from the tour, Reynolds comes up he doesn't come up through the town like Howard does, so he doesn't necessarily see the hill. I'm sure he sees it because there's no Pickett's Buffet and there's none of that, and the tree lines are different.
It's a lot more prominent.
You probably see that hill, but he turns off the Emmitsburg Road to head northwest towards the seminary and the ridge, and then he writes that he's going to, he'll barricade the streets if necessary to hold the Confederates back. I don't know if it's to keep them off of the hill or just that he's going to do all he can to slow them down and stop them for the rest of the army to get up here and meet them. And so, of course, he dies quick, and we don't know everything about him that we'd like to know. But they do their best to hold on, and it's the one day of the 3 days that they're outnumbered. And when they get outnumbered, the Confederates get around their flanks. It doesn't help that Barlow moved up to an untenable position. We talk about Sickles all the time. Barlow's going to do the same thing. And so it works out for the Confederates. But in between those two flanks, it's not an easy task. They're just not pushing them back willy-nilly. This isn't a case of Jackson collapsing Howard's line, and that seemingly was fairly easy as battles can go. This is something totally different. There's a stern defense. Yeah. It's taken multiple attempts for the Confederates to push the Union Army back towards the town and the hills. And so with that stern defense, they're exacting their toll on the Confederates. And that toll is going to, play out the next 2 or 3 days. I still think the Confederates have a chance on the second day. And their chance is over on Culp's Hill, obviously, when they pull all the men off, other than the 1400 and Green's Brigade. But it's dark. Life conspires against the Confederates at that point. It's dark. They don't know. I think they know that they're gone because the pickets are gone. But they don't have enough over there to go and get behind that line and sever the Baltimore Pike. It worked out the way it's supposed to and the way it should. Yeah. But that first day, the toll that the Union Army exacts on the Confederates is very important. And I can't say it's overlooked. That would make me sound like I know more than I do. Like I said, I'm kind of dumb. But it is an important factor that I don't often see people say when they should have attacked that hill. It's more than the hill. Yeah. I think the hill, almost to a point, not totally, but is becoming overrated, attacking that hill. I don't think they get the hill. I don't care if it's Samuel Jackson, Thomas Jackson, Andrew Jackson. Right. They're not
Michael Jackson.
Do you think a little bit of Lee apologies lie in that? It can't be Lee's fault. It's got to be, it's got to be Ewell's fault.
Yeah, it's everybody else's fault but Lee's.
You're right. It's the Hill's fault. It's not Lee's fault. It's the Hill's fault. It's Ewell's fault.
It's
everybody else.
The farmer didn't mow the lawn's fault.
You know that I like Lee.
Right.
I'm not going to go down that road. I admire Lee as a man, as a human, a fallible human. This loss here at Gettysburg is Robert E. Lee's fault. In conjunction with the Union had a lot to do with it. They're fighting on their soil, but some of the decisions that Lee makes cause their army to lose here. Yeah. He had a very small window, I think, where if he'd have done things a little bit differently, if he'd adjusted his command style to the two brand new corps commanders he has, rather than thinking, well, I got Longstreet, been with him a long time. I just had Jackson. I just had to think something, and he'd do it as long as he stayed awake. I think if I just keep doing that, we'll be okay. He doesn't adjust to Ewell, who's recently been under Jackson, and if you didn't do things the way Jackson wanted to, you were in trouble. That's the style Ewell's used to. Mm-hmm. And then A.P. Hill is just lethargic and whatever because of his problems he has. Lee needed to be a micromanager on this battlefield, and he wasn't. He didn't adapt his command style to the environment, and therefore, with the help of a very good army across the way, and I might add, a Union commander, I like Lee a lot. I also love George Meade. Yeah. And George Meade is part of the reason I hate Dan Sickles. Mm-hmm. Because Meade deserved a lot more than he got out of this battle. He didn't deserve all these people coming before Congress in 1864 lying about him.
It's a great point.
I love George Meade. I was the first sergeant at his post, though, and I hated that 18 months. But that's a different story.
But that has nothing to do with him.
But it's that command, what Meade does here, juxtaposed what Lee does here, you see how command affects outcomes. Mm-hmm. And, Lee needed to be a micromanager on this battlefield, and he wasn't. Meade is brand new to command. 3 days after he takes command, this battle opens. He's not here the entire first day, but you can see how he's managing it from from Tawnytown, getting the Army here, even with the loss of all these corps commanders.
Yeah.
Lee doesn't lose any corps commanders here. He's got his 3, Mm-hmm. For better or worse, Meade loses Sickles. After it's all over, he loses Hancock. He loses Reynolds on the first day. Mm-hmm. He's got Sykes, who just takes over for his corps. So Sykes has only been in corps command for 3 days. Mm-hmm. So, Hancock's only been in command of that corps for a little bit. He takes over after Chancellorsville. Right. So he has a lot of brand new and moving parts within his army, too. And you can see the difference in performance. And that's why, it's Lee's fault that the Confederate Army loses, but it's also in conjunction with how Meade conducts his army. Mm. And he does an outstanding job. So,
yeah. I want to push back on one thing you said. I think Reynolds did see the hill because when he first came to Gettysburg, he didn't go across the fields. He alone, with his staff, went up and then turned on Washington Street.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he had to have seen that hill.
Yeah.
And maybe when they talked to Buford pointed it out. Yeah. I don't know, but maybe he said, yeah. And so, I think he would know the importance of that hill.
And then he's got a, so let's presume that he knows the hill's there. And we got to occupy it somehow, but it's not his corps occupying it. He knows there's more corps coming because he's that wing commander, but it's going to take time for the next corps to get there, be the 11th Corps. So he does have to barricade the streets and stuff to keep them off of the hill.
Right. Anyway, Robinson's division in the defense of Oak Ridge is what we're going to be doing a tour on. But that was a good. I like that dissertation on Cemetery Hill and everything else, and Meade and all that other jazz.
I live in Virginia.
Yeah,
I don't live around any other guides. I live around some people that may or may not be interested in the Civil War. They don't necessarily want to talk to me, so I don't get to talk like this very often.
Yeah, you need to move up here.
Well, as soon as my kids are out of high school,
well, hurry them up.
I'm going to retire. And
can't they test out early or something?
I tried to do that in the 6th grade and it didn't work.
No, the kids.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I was trying to get them to take their finals for 12th grade. They flunked.
All right, so Robinson's division in defense of Oak Ridge, September 16th. So we're meeting at Oak Ridge. You want to meet by the observation deck? Or what do you call it? The observation tower?
Yeah.
Okay.
Around there in the Robinson
statue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I try to pick it. I'm hoping there's a little bit of shade.
There's that one big tree there.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fall down between now and then, I think we'll be all right.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. Very good. We'll see you guys on the 16th at 10 o'clock. Park where legal, et cetera, et cetera. And try to get there by 9:30 or so that you're not showing up right at 10 and missing the tour or something else like that. That's it for now. We'll see you then. Have a good one.
Our hearts so stout have got us fame, for soon 'tis known from whence we came. Wherever we go, they dread the name of Gary Owen in glory. Instead of spa or drink down ale and pay the reckoning on the nail, no man for debt shall go to jail from Gary Owen in glory. Instead of spa or drink down